Sheila Lamb, and I'm with the Virginia SBDC Network. For those of you that are not familiar with our organization, the Virginia Small Business Development Center is a partnership program between the U.S. Small Business Administration, George Mason University, and local host institutions throughout Virginia. With 26 locations across the Commonwealth, we provide training and technical assistance to small businesses in their local communities. Our one-on-one advising services are available at no charge. Today's webinar, Building a Strong Cybersecurity Foundation for Your Business, is presented by the Virginia SBDC Network. Please say the date for the next webinar in our cybersecurity series, Holiday Season Cybersecurity, Protecting Your Small Business During Peak Activity, and that will happen on November 20th at 12:30 p.m. I'll drop that registration link into the chat momentarily. We are recording today's presentation, and it will be posted on our website, virginiasbdc.org. Due to the large number of participants, everyone's microphone is muted and the chat feature is turned off. But if you have questions during the presentation, you can type those into the Q&A box and we will address them at the end of the session. We have also enabled the live transcript function, which you can show or hide via your own meeting controls. And now it is my pleasure to introduce our presenter for today's session, Kiana Gainey. Kiana is a 20-plus year IT and cybersecurity industry veteran and has served as Chief Executive Officer for SecureTech 360, located in Springfield, Virginia, since its inception in 2010. She is also the Cybersecurity Industry Specialist for the Virginia SBDC. Welcome, Kiana.
Thank you, Sheila, and welcome to everyone as we end Cybersecurity Awareness Month, which is one of my favorite months of the year. And we also celebrate, anyone that does celebrate Halloween, or I always like to call it the sweetest day for the kids. So we hope that today's presentation will give you a little sweetness about building a strong cybersecurity foundation for yourself and for your business. Next slide. So quick about the agenda. We did a wonderful introduction, so thank you, Sheila. But basically, we'll give you some tools and tricks to be able to build this foundation for your organization as it relates to cybersecurity. And then we'll give you some resources and next steps at the end, and we'll take some questions. Next slide. So a little bit about myself. I'm also a veteran for all of my veterans out there. But in addition to that, I've been serving as a CEO of SecureTech 360 for about 15 years now. And so I understand as a person in cybersecurity, but also as a small business owner, some of the things that I had to put into practice in my own small business, but then also things that I had to continue to educate my staff as we were growing as well. So my goal is today is to give you some of those foundational tools for your own business. Next slide. So first thing, I always get this question, even with some clients, why does cybersecurity matter, right? Outside of all the things that you're seeing on the news, I don't know, it's coming to a point that every day there's a new cyber attack, there's a new outage, there's something that's happening. And so the small business community may think, oh, this is only happening to major corporations or things that people want. Well, I'll give you a couple statistics here. 43% of cyber attacks are against small businesses, right? And they impact our finances. They can also impact our reputation and sometimes our customer trust. And because we are a small business, maybe we only have one or two clients. And just imagine if a cyber attack could take out your whole business, impact your business, your finances, your reputation, and also help you not have that trust factor with your clients, how crucial that could be to your business. So again, think about 60% of small business close within 6 months of a major cyber attack, right? The biggest tool that, regardless of your size, is prevention. Prevention is the key to resilience. And so our goal is today is to give you some of that information, the knowledge and tools to help you protect your business, and then also help you to connect to have some resources for ongoing support. Next slide. So some essential cybersecurity practices that you can put into place. Low cost, right? High impact. Backups, encryption. 75% of business without a recovery plan fail after a major cyber attack. So let's take a step back. You may say, what's a recovery plan? So in addition to having a cybersecurity plan, you can even have it within your cybersecurity plan. One best practice is to create an incident and recovery plan. So the incident disaster recovery plan will help you in the event of a disaster, and then if something happened as as a result of certain incidents. It will put together a recovery plan, and that recovery plan can include things on your backups and your encryption. Why that's important? Because if you have a routine where you're regularly updating your backups, or you have some encryption and you're encrypting those backups to make sure there's an extra layer of security, when there is an incident, you can also return back or resume service with those backups. So another great proactive step that you can do is doing those regular software updates. Unpatched systems are responsible for 60% of the data breaches. So if you saw all the things that happened with CrowdStrike, a lot of that was around unpatched updates, unpatched systems, software updates, and the impact that it had on just regular consumers, everything from the aircraft industry to the federal government. They were all impacted by a patch for a large organization. So if you see the impact that it can have on somebody that has probably more resources than we could probably imagine from a small business or a large corporation. But these are regular, everyday, essential cybersecurity practices that you can put into your business that are very low cost. My favorite, and I always say this regardless, I have seen Fortune 500 companies all the way up to nonprofits to even government agencies building the awareness for your staff on what to do in the event that there is, and sometimes I don't even like to say in the event, if something happens, when something happens, and I'm not trying to be spooky, I know it's Halloween, but things happen, right? The one thing that you can do, the one tool that you can have that is very low cost is employee training. Regular training can reduce everything from your employees, being victims to phishing attacks, all these different type of attacks. When you see all of these strange emails, sometimes coming from what it may look like as a trusted source, having them be able to identify just something as simple as, I always tell my employees, look at the signature block of the email, see where it's coming from. If it's something that's saying do something right now, or if it's saying send some money right now, or if it's saying something from someone that's within the organization, but that maybe, let's say Bob is in HR. Bob sends you just this random email that wants you to do something right away. I always say the best rule of thumb, pick up the phone and call and say, hey, did you send me this email? Or is there something I need to take care of right away? And there's a link within this email. So anytime that there's an email that has a link that's saying you have to do something, or there will be, some type of major act that will happen, those are the type of things that you need to address in your employee training. And I like to do it when I first onboard an employee, all the way into my weekly staff meetings. And then in addition, when there is an event that something happens significant within the organization or something that's happening in the world, I also incorporate that into my employee training. So that's something that you can do that's very low cost, and it's really about building that awareness and putting those essential cybersecurity practices into place for your small business. Next slide. So we'll go back into more best practice and strengthen your cybersecurity posture. So we talked about educating your team, practical steps for your protection, conducting those regular cybersecurity training to raise that awareness. There are things you can do, implementing a strong password policy. And in certain cases, if you can use multi-factor authentication, using those complex passwords, and also using multi-factor authentication gives you an added layer or second layer of security, right? So you want to use as many defense mechanisms as you can use for your small business to make sure that you're taking a more practical approach to protecting yourselves. We talked about backing up your data. Regularly backing up your data is to protect against ransomware attacks. You see them all the time. You've heard about maybe some use cases in the past, or even how they've taken down major systems or their system failures. You can also do things that are low cost as well. Invest in antivirus or firewalls. Use software that has, a reputation of being prudent. And always say, I like to do my research. And then I like to also talk to other small business owners. Find out what's working for them, because it's not like always a one size fit all for everything. If I'm a small business that's dealing with healthcare data, maybe I need to employ a lot more of these protections, because maybe the regulatory impacts of the business that I am that I'm hosting, everything from the information or even the customers that I'm hosting on my infrastructure, I may need to put additional cybersecurity practices in place. So think about that as far as what use cases will be best suited for your small business. So do your research, talk to other small business owners, see what they're using, what works, what didn't work. And then when you're putting together this wonderful cybersecurity plan and the incident response plan or disaster recovery plan that we talked about earlier, incorporate all of those things as it suits to your small business. Next slide. So responding to cyber incidents, right? I talked about this earlier. It's not sometimes a matter of if, sometimes it's a matter of when. So you have to be able to put together this incident response plan that we talked about earlier. And in that plan, it should have very key components on who, what, when, and how, but also how to identify one that you're actually having or experiencing a cyber incident or a cyber attack, how to contain it. The prompt response can reduce data breach costs, and the average cost now is in the millions on the average, right? Because now you have to, and I've been a victim of this as well, and maybe some of you have, when you see something like from your insurance company or your healthcare organization, they'll send out something and say, hey, we have experienced a data breach, and as an effort to help minimize some of the damage, we are offering credit monitoring service for the next 90 to 120 days. That's costly, right? Because now they have to pay for, in addition to the breach itself, now they have to pay for these additional things as well. So make sure that you understand the impact of what each incident can cause your organization. So, and also how to identify if it's actually attacked, and then how to contain it. Also, one thing we're talked about with the training with your employees, making sure they understand about reporting, who to report to, because timely reporting can minimize everything from legal penalties and to even also rebuild the customer trust. So I gave you an example when you have maybe in the past have received a notice in the mail that said, hey, we've experienced a data breach, and the way that they're trying to rebuild the customer trust is by offering you something like a monitoring service as well. So think about that as for your small business as well, and how that may impact you. Recovery and review. 38% of small businesses never recover from a data breach, right? That's a very high number. So the only way that you can help yourselves is to be putting some preventive maintenance in your plan to make sure that you don't become part of that 38%. And then something else that can be something depending on your organization and your budgets, because I understand I have a small business, and everything sometimes come down to cost. And having a cyber risk insurance. It could be something that's already covered in your insurance policies, or it's maybe something that maybe for a couple dollars a month can give you this extra level of protection as well. So it's something that you can review with your current carrier, or even talk again. This is where I said about having other small business owners that maybe be in a similar industry to see if there's something that they have helped them with their industry as well. And if they're, they can give you recommendations on what type of coverage could help you with your particular industry as well. Next slide. Again, so a couple of key takeaways as we kind of wrap up, and I always like our trick or treat sweet day as Cybersecurity Awareness Month is coming to an end, but the cybersecurity should be a part of your everyday practices, just like any other practice that you have, and just keeping it as we're going into the holidays, as we're starting our New Year's 2025 goals for our business. If this is not things that you're doing now, take the time to put some of these things in practice and then keep it going all the way up into 2025. And the best thing you can do, as we've talked about throughout the webinar today, is preparation. You're going to keep hearing me saying, knocking on wood, preparation is so key. Implementing these proactive measures such as regular security audits. And what a regular security audit is what I'm just saying now. Take a look at your organization. Look at your current policies and procedures. Look at some things that maybe your employees or you have experienced over the last year or so, and see if there are things that you can strengthen your cybersecurity posture. You can strengthen some of your business processes. Also, are you prepared for an incident? Do I need to put together an incident response plan? If I have one, is it time to break, take the dust off of it and actually put it into practice? Because another rule of thumb outside of putting together these wonderful policies and procedures, making sure your employees are trained, testing these as well, testing to see if these things that you put in place are actually going to help your business sustain in the event that there's an incident or breach. Recognizing all the pressing cybersecurity threats that impact your small business. So this is where it's key. Every small business have different risks based on the type of industry they're in, the customers that they serve, or even the level of responsibility for some of those regulatory aspects of their business. So, and then looking at like what's going on with current events. What are new threats? What are new threat actors that are out there? How is that impacting my small business? What other things can I incorporate this into my, business practices now, or ones that I will develop for the future? And then implement practical steps for your employee training, building a security first culture, which that means is making sure that that's first in mind, top of mind with your employees. Just like I always say, most small business, if you have a physical location, physical security, you think about everything from the type of locks to the cameras to who has access to your building. It's the same thing with even your cybersecurity. Physical security is a part of cybersecurity, but this is more and along with all of the applications that you're using, the email that you're using, the devices that you're using. Implement those same type of security that you put on your front door into your everyday practices will help you build that security first culture. And then staying proactive in safeguarding your business. So doing all of the things that we talked about, the training, the regular updates, doing an audit, doing those self-assessments will be key as well. Next slide. So as we wrap up Cybersecurity Awareness Month, cybersecurity is a must for every business. As you can see, regardless of your industry, regardless of your size, securing your business protects your data. It builds or continues to build that customer trust. It also strengthens you for long-term resiliency, depending on what other threat actors are out there. Being prepared is key to your survival. Prepare for the unexpected, have those response plans, test those response plans, do a regular audit of those plans. If you have the budget, invest in things like cyber risk insurance, and knowing your emergency contacts can also save you time and money. I'm going to date myself. And when I was in the military, they had this thing called a recall roster. And on the recall roster, it listed all of the emergency contacts, and it had an order of who to call on when, what, and how, depending on what was happening. And they also, took it a step further. This was, I'm gonna predate myself, before computers and all of these different things. They would print it out and they will place it in a place where, in the event of an emergency, that we can get to it. So I also do that same practice even for my small business now. All of my plans, all of my emergency contacts, I keep a physical copy of it and I leave it at another location. I don't keep it on the site just in case maybe the site is compromised. And even this happened even during COVID when they did the emergency order. I had most of my plans in paper copy. So I was able to implement things, and it also saved me time and money, and I didn't have to go scrambling and looking for it. So those are little things that are low cost, as I mentioned before, and this practical things that you can put into place to help you, one, keep your business secure during this, ever-changing, unprecedented times with all different types of breaches that are happening. And just like the large organizations are having to take notice to cybersecurity, it's the same thing with small businesses as well. Next slide. So any questions? And I went through a lot in a short period of time.
Right now, we have one question that has popped up. What's the best way to spot spoofed websites?
So a rule of thumb is that I always look at everything on the address bar, right? So if the web address has something that looks funny, like if it's one that doesn't have any type of security on it and it looks a little bit different, like I had someone that sent me a link and it was to my insurance company. When I looked at the website, I'm like, that doesn't look like the websites that I'm used to, going to on a regular basis. And then I noticed when I looked a little closer that there was some letters that was off. And then I knew immediately that there was something off about that website. So, I always say before you click, review, stop and look. And sometimes it could just be something that it could be very a slight change. Even when you get those suspicious emails, when you really look at the body of that email, you can see some misspelled words. You can say to yourself, why is Bob, an accountant, reaching out to me, and I work in another department that doesn't have anything to do with finance? And why does he want me to update my direct deposit, form, when I know that I've been using the same direct deposit and nothing's changed? So when I always say, just like when things are strange and spooky, and things of Halloween, it's the same thing with cybersecurity. A lot of the hackers, I know they've gotten very sophisticated with certain tactics, but certain tactics have not gotten that sophisticated. So, stop, think before you click, research it, review it. Those are just some practices that you can put into place to make sure that you're not, become victim of some ridiculous hacking attempt to try to steal information.
Do we have any other questions out there? Well, we can pick Kiana's brain. I'm going to go ahead also and put up the slide with the links that you had put together, Kiana.
Yes.
And then
and these are great. Yeah, these are great. I can go through them. We have a little time. I talked about the cybersecurity awareness training. Know before. It's a free resource. If you don't have a cybersecurity training or any type for your organization, you're like, I don't even know how to get started, I don't really have any money, you can start there. Make it something that your employees can go and look at. And it's cool. They have all these wonderful graphics. It's very user friendly, and it gives scenarios that we kind of talked through today. Everything from insider threat, how to locate when something's off, how to deal with phishing attacks. So it's a great website. SANS also has a great website as well, phishing.org, because a lot of the phishing emails that we talked about, that is a whole different, level of how it goes into how to be prepared and how to recognize those. The Federal Trade Commission does a great job as well, and so does CISA. CISA, Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, is an entire agency dedicated to cybersecurity. They have a whole section for small business owners. I know during Cybersecurity Awareness Month, even SBA had a wonderful whole week. Was it a week or a couple of days of training? It's available on YouTube now. You can also go back and look at some of those things as well. So utilize a lot of the trainings that were available during Cybersecurity Awareness Month just to bring yourself up to speed. And they also have a plethora of additional links and resources that you can use as well. But these are just a few, just to name.
Okay, we still don't have any questions, so I'll give a moment longer to see if anything drops in. And I'm going to go ahead. Oh, here we have one. Let's see. Any tips to protect from AI voice messages that sound like a trusted person?
Yes, just like with anything, if the AI, or even if it sounds like someone that if it's not a conversation that you've had with someone previously, right? Or if it's they're demanding something that you do something right now, you do something right now. I've had one that called and said, oh, the FBI is looking for you and you need to call back this number ASAP. Okay, the FBI got my number out of how many people on the planet, and they're calling me to do something about it today? No, that's not how the FBI works, right? So it's those type of things. Hang up immediately, call back a number that find out from that person, did you contact me on X, Y, and Z? And 9 out of 10, you can find out right then and there, no, that this was someone that was trying to, masquerade or, try to spoof me to believe that this was an actual person or organization, because it's usually an organization, right? It's like the FBI or the IRS is another popular one. They even have one with the United States Postal Office. They're trying to contact you because you lost a package. And you're like, I'm not even looking for a package. So why are they taking the time to text me and then call me about a package that I'm not even looking for? I think I had one the other day about FedEx. I'm like, I'm not even looking for a FedEx package, So, and even for my seniors, my godmother and her friends are always calling me, like, because I have them on high alert because they always are targeting the seniors as well. And she's like, oh, they called me and told me that I needed to upload and my banking statements, and then they wanted me to log in and for my bank statement. And I said, nope, the bank would not call me and say that. And I said, right. So rule number 1, if nothing else, verify, validate, and hang up.
Exactly. Someone's commenting, they just got one saying, I'm going to jail because I didn't show up for jury duty and they were trying to save me.
Exactly.
My
You're like,
gosh.
no, no, right? And it's like I said, you have some sophisticated hackers, right, that can do all kind of crazy tools and techniques to get you. But then you just have some of the ones that I always say they're not as bright, and so they don't use any new techniques. They'll sometimes take things that people have already been doing and doing the same type of like Ponzi schemes, and we've seen them before, right? It's the same thing with cybersecurity and some of the folks that are calling you, trying to get your information, trying to get you to do something right away, trying to get information from you. You know, I've even had, and I've even been times where it was actually a legitimate call. And I remember someone saying, so you want me to, you want to end this call and then you'll call me back? Yes. So I said, I'm sorry, I need to validate. I'm going to first go and research and see if you're an actual real person. Then I'm going to validate if you still work for the company. And then I'm going to validate if the phone number is correct. And then after I do all of that validating, and then I'm going to call you back on a number that is issued from a trusted source, not the number you gave me.
Right.
And she's like blown away. She's like, okay, well, I guess you have to do what you have to do. Right. I have to do what I have to do. So you have a right to stop, think, and validate, and then proceed how you feel. Don't feel rushed to make a decision because someone else is trying to, get you to do something right away. No, just like we tell our kids, don't just take candy, eat the candy out the bag. Let's go home and look at the candy and make sure that nothing's tampered with the candy. Same principle.
So another attendee said after donating a card to the Veterans Association, they received mail asking for their social security number.
Right. So yeah, again,
as you all kinds,
see,
right?
It's all kinds, and it comes from different sources. And this is something, right? You was donating something for a good cause, and and maybe they got some information, and maybe they even hacked a database and saw that you were one of the 100 people that donated, and now they're just going to start cold calling and try to see where they can put information together. So a lot of people do a lot of social engineering techniques, and they'll find a source to try to figure out or validate some information. So if the veterans or the Veterans Association that you donated to, if that wasn't a requirement for that donation, don't do it. Call a trusted number, call a trusted source to make sure that this is actually a legitimate thing. Do not give out your information from an untrusted sources calling you.
Right. Okay. Do we have any other questions? I think we've all had some sort of
weird,
right? I mean, it's just ongoing and it's so annoying. And you're right, especially with our elderly, family members and all, it's scary. I mean,
yes.
because they don't really think twice because that's not the culture they grew up in. So
yes.
I went ahead and put up some contact information on the screen. Again, these slides will be emailed to everyone who is here today. So you're going to have this all handy within the day or two. So if we don't have any other questions, Kiana, do you have any last words of wisdom? Although you've given us tons of words of wisdom, but anything else?
Yes. So just to tie it all up in a bow, and thank you guys for your questions and even your comments, because it definitely helps bring to life what we're saying. If you see something and it looks strange, verify, validate. Only, trust. I always say a trusted source is after I validated that it's a trusted source. So I always say I trust, but I verify. So it doesn't take me a second or, more to validate anything. So make sure you're doing that as well. So, as you are putting things into practice, it's the same things that we do in our everyday lives. Trust, but verify.
Great. Thank you. Kiana, fabulous as always. And thank everyone who did attend today. And as a reminder, you will receive an email with a link to the recording and to the slides. If you would like to sign up for upcoming webinars or access recorded webinars, please visit virginiasbdc.org/training. This webinar and other SBD resources are designed to be used in collaboration with your local SBDC advisors. You can sign up for a free and confidential session by emailing help@virginiasbdc.org or via our website. And we do hope to see you all at our next session. Stay safe, stay cyber safe, and have a happy Halloween. Take care, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.